still no suspect in the gruesome slaying of 4 University of Idaho students who were stabbed in their sleep. On Friday, investigators returned to the crime scene, leaving with bags of evidence, raising many questions about where this investigation stands nearly 2 weeks later. Former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker explaining how important the evidence collectors are in solving this case.
They may have brought a specialist on the scene, for example, serology or hairs and fibers, and just to make sure that there's nothing that was uncollected, because the evidence is only as good as the collector of the evidence and the expertise of the collector.
Police have said this was a targeted attack, but won't reveal who was specifically targeted, leaving many confused, including Steve Goncalves, the father of one of the victims, Kaylee Goncalves.
Do you know if police believe one person in the house was the target of this attack, or all 4?
I've been told it's one, but then again, there's the vagueness. Like, it's like purposely vague, I'm hoping, but it confuses everyone.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows what that really means, other than maybe somebody had a different kind of attack footprint.
Charlie, I got to be honest. You have kids, I have kids. I'm not sure I send my kid back there.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Suspect on the loose. They don't really seem to have any definitive leads, or at least they're not sharing them. So in a place like that could be so isolated if you're off campus, I'm sorry. I'm thinking transfer, or I'm doing remote learning, which the university is doing right now.
Or can you imagine a kid enrolled in the place having to face this, as if they don't have enough problems in their life anyway, going back to a situation like this? You know, I was really struck by that, by the father's comment about purposely vague. You know, obviously you kind of hope that maybe the police are, you know, you pray the police know more than they're sharing, and clearly they do know more than they're sharing, and you hope that they are indeed being purposefully vague, hopefully to sort of keep whoever it is they have in their crosshairs unaware that they are onto them. But, you know, it's such a gruesome thing, and the thing that puzzles me is that it's such the manner in which these kids were murdered is such an intimate way. It was done in such an intimate manner that you would think that it was somebody that knew somebody that the perpetrator knew the victims, but then it raises the question: how does somebody like this manage to kill 4 people? And it's appalling, but.
Right. You would think after the first victim was attacked, obviously there would be some scream. There would be something that wakes the other folks up to either get out of there or attack.
And the amount of hatred required to do this to one person. How do you how does a person have that kind of hatred in their heart for 4 people?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hear from James Fitzgerald. He is a retired FBI criminal profiler. He analyzes who the killer could be and the level of sophistication, to Charlie's point, behind it.
A knife wounding with a knife or killing with a knife is a whole different set of physical and emotional reactions. And times that by 4, as we have in this case, how he got into the scene, how he perhaps pre-offense behavior was, how he explored perhaps the interior of the apartment, or had schematics about it, or actually was in there at other times. And of course, the post-offense behavior, getting away with this crime. He apparently left no fingerprints behind, no blood on his part, and no DNA. And there's some sophistication before and after the crime, even if the violent crime itself lacks some of that therein.
Jackie, that's worth repeating. The killer apparently left no fingerprints behind, no blood, no DNA, and he somehow killed 4 people, not with a gun, which can be done fairly quickly, but with a knife. I mean, this thing is so crazy, so disturbing, and the thing is, it feels like we're not even close to finding out who did this.
No, I don't think we are, and I actually was thinking that the DNA aspect of this would be fascinating. It would crack this case open, and probably pretty quickly, but the fact that this person was experienced enough not to leave fingerprints, or at least, you know, we were talking about having skill in picking up the evidence, right, at least to our knowledge, and leaving no DNA behind. There is evidence that these victims were defensive in some way, that there were some defensive wounds, that they did did fight back. And so I wonder to myself how it's possible that somebody didn't have some DNA fibers under their nails or however they did try to fight back, right? It seems almost impossible to me. And that's where the skill level comes in. And you say, you know, was this a team that knew exactly what it was doing? On top of it, my understanding is that morning before the authorities came, that was a crime scene. Other people were entering that crime scene. So it wasn't, you know, completely intact by the time that they got there. And these are a lot of questions, but I imagine for parents who have children that go to not only this university or other universities as well, this is terrifying behavior, and it's really scary so much time has passed without any lead, you know, being released to the public at this point.
Lisa.
And I've seen other reports that apparently it was sloppy. So it's just the more information we find out, the more contradictions and conflicting information seems to be out there. But how do you not leave DNA behind with 4 different victims? And if some of the victims, which we've heard had defensive wounds, means that they fought back, you would have to imagine that they screamed. How did the other victims not hear that? And how did 2 people in the house apparently not wake up during all of this? I mean, none of it makes sense. And look, I've been in college. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. I've been drunk as a skunk before. And you would think you would still wake up if you hear this going on. Oh, yeah. And there was 2 different floors that this took place in, different rooms. It's just hard to imagine that someone could get in, not wake anyone up, and commit, 4 murders in a house over that time span. So just none of this makes sense whatsoever. And I got to tell you, I'm a gun owner, and I think every American that lives in a state where they can own a gun, law-abiding gun owners, you should. Because I got to tell you, try showing up to my apartment, it's going to go down a little bit differently. I think every American deserves to be armed and should. I mean, we live in a completely depraved society.
And we'll have to leave it there. Great points all.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.